Hare Krishna. How is everyone today? So, I think last week we must have had a very nice discussion on the appearance of Lord Ramchandra. No? And we had Ram Navami celebrated last week. So, the week before that we discussed this 46th verse of the second chapter. And here Krishna is saying that all purposes served by a small well can be at once served by this large reservoir of water. Right? So Krishna is telling us that in direct terms, one who knows the purposes of Vedas, one can achieve all the purposes of the Vedas by understanding the purpose behind them. Right? So, what is the purpose behind the Vedas? To know Krishna. That is the self-realization. Yeah. That is the conclusion of the Vedas. How voluminous, how large are the Vedas in terms of content? How many, like this such books would the Vedas comprise? Hundreds?
Maybe hundreds of books.
Hundreds of thousands, yeah, that's probably pretty close. Oh yeah. It would fill many rooms this size. That's the size of the... And even that, what we have today is only a small portion of the total Vedas. Much has been lost or destroyed. So you can imagine walking into a library that had, many, many rows of books. And you were given an assignment. Okay, you have to study all this and tell me what is the essence of this all. How difficult of a task would that be? Very difficult. You can say almost impossible. So, we are fortunate because Krishna has given us, the abridged version, the answer key. He's given us the answer key. So somebody may ask us that, but then Krishna is slipping in our pocket the answer. Right? So, and what is Krishna's authority to speak on what the conclusion of the Vedas is?
He is God himself.
Okay, so he is God himself. So the supreme knower.
He wrote those all.
He is the author. He wrote it. So he can conclusively explain what the purpose is. Right? The author has complete authority to speak on the content of the book that the author writes. So Krishna, being the author of the Vedas, has explained in the 15th chapter, 15th verse, that he is the object of the Vedas. He says, Vedeshas are Vedya, Vedanta Kur Veda Eva Chaham. He says, of all the Vedas, I am to be known. And then he says, why? Because I am the compiler of the Vedanta. And I am the knower of Vedanta. So, this is the purpose. So the conclusion of this verse is that one achieves all purposes, all things in spiritual life through one single process. And what is that one single process? Chanting the names of? The holy names of? So by serving Krishna in devotional service, one achieves the results of all other processes and then some. Okay? Just like, again, if you live by a large flowing river, all the purposes you might obtain from different individual wells of water is achieved by this single reservoir of water. That is the example Krishna is giving in this book. This example is known to those who grew up in village life in India, particularly. We have this experience, right, where we have different wells serving different purposes. Right? So this is the conclusion, that by serving Krishna, one achieves everything. And that is why he conclusively can say, Mam ekam sharanam vraja. He says, you surrender only unto me. But when we hear that statement, we have some concern, right? What is our concern? What's left for me? What is the other? Why should I give it? Even if we're going to give everything, when Krishna says only to me, what do we think? What about others? I'm leaving somebody out, right? I have some concern. So our Vedas give another example that when you water the root of a tree, how many of that tree's branches are watered? All of them? Not half? Not 90%? 100%. And actually, is there any other way to truly water the branches of the tree?
The existence of branches is through the root.
It's through the root. Their connectivity system is to the root system. Right? So similarly, in our spiritual life, actually all spiritual processes, they end in service to Krishna. And that's why he says in the 5th chapter, Bhoktaram yagna tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram. He says, Bhoktaram yagna tapasam. Of all the yagyas, he says, I am the beneficiary. So, when we do any other yagya, we may be performing yagya to some, great personality. Whoever it may be, some great devata, we may do some yagya. But who is the ultimate recipient of this yagya? Because that person we may be offering yagya to, what do they do with that yagya?
They are empowered by Krishna to give blessings to us.
So they are empowered by Krishna. So what do they do with that yagya's benefits? They have to pass it up the chain, right? If you're working in a corporation and you work for your boss, does your boss keep all the fruits of your work? What do?
Goes to all the stakeholders.
Goes to their boss. And what does that boss do?
Give it to the shareholders.
Ultimately up to the owner. Right? That's how it works. So in spiritual life, it's no different. So the ultimate beneficiary is Krishna. So Krishna is very conclusively telling Arjuna here, don't be distracted by the flowery words of the Vedas. Know that by worshipping me, you are worshipping everything. And everything is included and nothing is missing. To give us confirmation of this fact. So now let's read this 47th verse. This is a very famous verse. I'm sure many of you may have this verse memorized. You've seen it on billboards. You see it everywhere, right? Mahabharatas. Yeah.
Opening shloka of Mahabharata serial.
Yeah. But one key component of this verse is always missing. So let's see. Let's see. So somebody can read the verse.
Karmanye kariste ma phaleshu kadacham. Ma karma phale hetur bhurma te sangyo taskarmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai Ho.
there are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoyed in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the results of such actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the scriptural injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work which results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is an other side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna.
Okay, so let's discuss this very well. I'd say discussed verse, but very poorly understood verse. So let us try to understand it as Srila Prabhupada has presented it to us. So, you have a right to perform your duties. That we all have heard many times. But what part do we often leave out? How come they don't show that on the billboards? You never see Ma Paleshu Kadachana. Never you see that. You'll see Karmani Vadikaraste. That you'll see. But never Ma Paleshu. Why? Why? Okay. So, this attachment to the fruits is very important to us. We are very attached to the fruits. So this is what we call picking and choosing. You know, when somebody speaks, we should not pick certain things and then portray it as complete. Right? So Krishna is giving this statement that you are entitled to the prescribed duties, but you're not entitled to the fruits. Okay? So that we should understand. So now let's break apart this statement. So when somebody says, you do the work, but you don't get the fruits, how do we feel about that? Excited? Sign me up? Long line ready to do that type of work? So in that equation, somebody says, you do the work, and you surrender the fruits. Who wins in that equation? Who's the winner in that equation?
The person who gets the fruits.
The person who gets the fruits. And who is the loser in that scenario? The one who's doing the work and giving up the fruits, right? So why don't we see on the billboards this Mahapala Shukadachana? Because we think we are the loser in that activity, right? So let us understand. So let's rewind the clock a little bit. What was the condition? Come. What was the condition of Arjuna at the beginning of this discussion?
He didn't want to fight the war.
Confused. Didn't want to fight. What else?
Like, what is the purpose of
Anxious.
Fighting? What is the purpose of fighting his own relatives? And
How could he be asked to fight his own relatives? Any other sentiments he had?
What will he gain?
What will he gain? Why, right? He was, Sadness. Yeah, he was very emotionally shaken, right, to the core. He was confused. He was actually fearful. Anxiety. Stress. Any of us have those emotions once in a while? Yeah. So what did Arjuna do when he was in that condition?
He gave up his.
Huh?
He gave up his whatever his bow and arrow and everything.
Yeah. So he dropped his Gandiva bow and sat in a chariot. And then what did he do? He asked Krishna, what should I do? He asked Krishna what he should do because he could not figure it out himself. He first tried himself, right? He tried to come up with his own solutions, his own logic why he should not fight. But he was left feeling indecisive, confused as to what to do. So he went to Krishna. And what did he ask of Krishna? Understand what Arjuna asked of Krishna. Again, what did he ask? This is the most important position we should begin our study of Bhagavad Gita. Every time we go to Krishna, we don't say, tell me what's best for me. What do? We give our laundry list of things that we think is best for us and say, Krishna, please give me this. But did Arjuna say, Krishna, please get me free from fighting this war? He told Krishna, please tell me what's best for me. Because he had faith that who knew better than himself what was best for him? He had faith. Krishna knows more than me. Just like we know when we're growing up in our house. At some point in our journey, we think we know better what's for us than our mother and father. Right? But who's always right in the end? Mom. Always. 100% of the time. And at some point we realize that, right? And then we think, wow, I was so foolish previously. So in an immature state, we think we have a better idea. But Arjuna realized, Krishna, you tell me what's best for me. Right? So what is Krishna telling Arjuna here? No, what? He didn't say just...
Do what I'm asking
Do
you,
your
and don't
duty
think
and-
about the action, the result of it.
Do your duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits.
But we just asked how we immediately think of that. Who is the winner in that equation? We said? Krishna. And who is the loser in that equation? Arjuna. So now we have to reconcile this. Right? Because Arjuna asked Krishna, what is best for me? But now we get a statement that seemingly says the opposite. What is best for Krishna and what is not best for Arjuna, right? So let's try to figure out now how we're going to reconcile this situation. So, when we talk about attachment to the fruits, so what does that mean? I carry a banana in my pocket? Is that an attachment to the fruits? Or a pineapple in this pocket? Maybe a little heavy pocket? No, right? So what does attachment to the fruits mean in practical terms? So let's discuss that first. Yeah.
It's like you do an activity, say go to work, and you get paid for that activity. You get money, and that money you can spend on things. So you say, hey, I go back to work and get more money because I want more money to buy myself things.
Okay.
Instead of giving that money to Krishna or something.
Okay. So I do some work, I do some activity, I get some thing back, and I use that for my own enjoyment.
And you continue to want more.
And it fuels that, right? Okay, so that is attachment to the fruits. So if we're going to choose, we basically have two choices in our life. Either I'm going to work attached to the fruits, or I'm going to work detached from the fruits. I have two choices. Because is inactivity really an option for us? Why? It's sinful. Yeah, that Prabhupada writes it's sinful. Why is inactivity not an option for us?
Krishna said you got to do your duty.
Okay, so one reason is Krishna says you have to do your duty.
We got bills to pay.
We have bills to pay, taxes to file, we have a house to mortgage to pay. Yeah, so that's practical reason.
So the nature of our soul to be active.
Okay,
Nothing changes unless you do something.
nothing changes unless you do something. The nature of the soul is to be active. Right? If I ask a 2-year-old child to sit here and sit very patiently and hear 1 hour of Bhagavad Gita class, will that work out well? Will it work out well for me or for him? No. Both is a lose-lose, right? This is not his nature. His nature is to be active, to play, to engage in some activity. So similarly, the nature of the soul is to be active. So we have to be active. We have to do something. We may try through meditation, try to temporarily go into an inactive state, but how long that lasts? Moments. Before. Even that, in that, how fast the mind is moving. When even we try to still the body, we may still the body, but how fast the mind moves. It actually moves faster, right? It moves actually faster. Because our whole, if I tell you to meditate, right? And you meditate on anything else except for jumping zebras. Don't think about jumping zebras. Everything else you can meditate on, but don't think jumping zebras. What is the only thing you'll meditate on? Jumping zebras. This is the fickleness of our mind. Okay? So inactivity is not an option. Okay? So now in this case we have two options. We're going to be active. Either I can attach from the fruits or I can detach from the fruits. Those are my two options. How am I going to decide which one I want to do? How does anyone decide between two options they have? How do they make that decision?
Knowledge and past experience.
Knowledge and past experience. And what are they looking for in the two options?
What's good for me?
Detachment.
What's good for me? What's best for me?
Detachment.
So when I look at two options, I'm going to see what's best for me. Am I going to eat rasgullas or gulab jamuns? I agree. I think it's an easy choice. Gulab jamuns. But, to somebody else, but we choose, right? Based on which gives me more happiness. Every day we make these decisions, right? So, we make a decision between option A and option B based on what's best for me. Very simple. Right? I always give this example just to show the immaturity, though we're convinced we're right. So if I ask a child, would you like 5 diamonds or 5 chocolates? What the child is going to take? What's actually best for the child? Because with diamonds, how many chocolates he could buy? Right? But he's convinced chocolates is best for me. Because he doesn't know yet, doesn't understand. Right? So, if I ask 100 people at Somerset Mall, we go to the mall, and say, my dear sir, my dear madam, is it better for you to attach from the fruits or detach from the fruits? What we'll hear 100 times? Attach to the fruits. Right? We are now studying Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna has said, detach from the fruits. And also Arjuna has asked Krishna, you speak what's best for me. Right? That's what Arjuna asked of Krishna. So we have to try to now reconcile these two. So let's discuss what happens when we attach from the fruits. What is the result of attaching to the fruits?
Karmic effect.
Karmic reactions. What does that mean, karmic reactions?
Collect account balance, good or bad.
So I collect a reaction, good or bad. My account, my karma account gets filled. As soon as I do an activity, if I'm attached to the result, karma, good or bad, and my account comes. So what happens if I have an account?
You have to settle the scores.
I have to settle the score. And how do I settle it? I have to come back. Okay, so I come back and I settle the account. So I'm good?
No, again things.
Again?
Attach.
Again, new. And
News.
more accounts. Right? So I say, okay, no problem. I'm only going to do good karma. I won't do bad. So what's the harm with that?
Still have to enjoy the fruits again.
Huh?
Still account balance.
I still account balance. But I'm getting good reactions, right? Good action, you said equals good reaction.
You won't
So-
be liberated.
Yeah, but I'm getting good reactions.
You won't go to Vaikuntha Loka, you will be like enjoying.
Okay, I won't go to Vaikuntha Loka. So what's the difference between Vaikuntha Loka and a place with good reactions?
It will get over sometime or the other. It is not, it's only temporary. It
It's-
has a shelf life.
It has a shelf life. It's temporary. It's limited. Even with all the good karma, as soon as I have birth, what is coming? Death
Death.
and misery, yes.
Old age,
Old age,
sickness.
disease. That is guaranteed. Any of that gives us happiness? So we know by definition, as long as I have a material body, there will be suffering. Krishna says in the 8th chapter, from the highest planets to the lowest, it is full of dukkha. It is full of misery. Maybe less misery compared to more, but still, from top to bottom, it is there. So attachment to the fruit leads to karma, which leads to rebirth, which means leads to constant cycling. Right? All right. So we know the result of one side. What's the result of detaching from the fruits?
No accounts.
No account balance. What happens when I have no account balance? Hmm?
Go back to God.
Go back to Godhead. What happens when I go back to Godhead?
Account closed.
Account closed. But closing the account isn't going to give me happiness, right?
Unlimited happiness, eternal life.
Let us understand something very important. When there's a prisoner in the prison house and has served many years in the prison, we think getting out of the prison is what is the source of happiness, right? That's not the source of happiness. What is the source of happiness?
Meeting the family.
The experiences when one is free from the prison. Understand the difference? The happiness doesn't come from just getting out of the prison. The happiness comes from the opportunities to experience things that were not available to them inside that are more pleasing, more beneficial, more happy. So it is not the freedom from the prison that is giving happiness. It is the engagement in activities that yield more happiness that is the reason for seeking to get out. Understand the small distinction I'm making here? But it's an important one. So happiness doesn't come from liberation. Happiness doesn't come from liberating from the prison house in the material world. Happiness comes from the activities that one engages in the spiritual world. And what activities are performed in the spiritual world?
Chanting the holy names.
Madhura serving.
Devotional service, chanting the holy names, different rasas, engaging with Krishna. That is the activity, the eternal activity. And what is the experience one achieves from that activity? Bliss. What kind of bliss? Eternal and unlimited. Now, unlimited, we don't even understand what unlimited means. Right? We cannot contemplate because everything we know is limited. Somebody said, "Oh, I have an unlimited bank balance." No, you have a number. It's limited. There's an unlimited amount of water in the ocean. No, it's limited. You could technically calculate it. But the activities in the spiritual world full of eternal and unlimited bliss. That is why the realm is called, what is the name of the spiritual world? Vaikunta.
No misery.
No miseries. None. So one attached to the action leads to,
No action.
and detachment from the fruits results in.
Eternal bliss and happiness.
What's so complicated about this? We don't need to study the rest of Bhagavad Gita. No, we're done. We know. Right? So what is the best activity for us? Attaching or detaching? But we said, if we know, before coming to knowing this knowledge, we thought, what's better for me, attaching or detaching? This is what we have to understand. Our consciousness has to shift. Because Krishna is telling Arjuna, you do your duty, but you surrender the fruits. And who is the beneficiary in that equation? Who wins? Arjuna. And we know this holistically. What is it that we can give to Krishna that he already doesn't have? What fruits we can give to him that would make him want to have them? If I have everything, do I ask somebody to give me something? No, because I have everything. And one of the names of Krishna is Atma Rama, which means he is self-satisfied. His satisfaction is not contingent on anything else. Our satisfaction is contingent on everything else. But by surrendering the fruits to Krishna, he is not necessarily gaining. But who is gaining? We are. So we are the beneficiary of surrendering the fruits of our labor. And we should remember that Krishna is speaking this Bhagavad Gita. Everything he is speaking, he has only one goal. And what is the single goal that Krishna has in speaking this whole Bhagavad Gita?
He wants his soul come back to his soul.
To be happy.
He wants to give Arjuna, his dear friend, happiness. But he's actually not speaking to Arjuna. Who is he speaking to? All of us. So all these instructions that he's giving and he will continue to give, it is for our benefit. So when we come into a verse like this, where it seems, wait a minute, I like the Karmani Vadikara state portion, but I don't like so much the Mahapaleshu Kadachana. We should step back and try to understand, okay, this also must be best for me. Why and how? So now we have clear understanding what's best for us? Is it black and white or like iffy?
Black and white.
Black and white? Now, let me ask the next harder question. Are we prepared to act in this knowledge 100%? Or is that iffy? We'll try. You know what I'm saying?
Gradually.
Gradually. Yes. And what is holding us back?
Conditioning.
Practice.
For so many years.
Desires,
Yeah,
conditioning,
practice.
years of practice the other way,
Faith.
right?
Complete faith.
Complete faith. And ultimately, it's our false ego. Our ego. Because when the child in the home makes some nice card or some craft, or even goes to the store and buys some materials, comes home and makes something and gives to mother and father, who is the creator of that? Who provided the resources for the child to make that item? Right? Mother and father. They provided everything. Right? So the child is giving something that they think they created. But mother and father know. Oh, they used my glue, my coloring, my paper. But does mother and father think like that when child gets? So what are they receiving from the child? The love, the thought that went into it. So Krishna doesn't need our fruits, but he enjoys them because it is the love that he is looking for in our fruits. He doesn't need our banana and pineapple. See, I'm now merging fruits. I'm very creative. Our pineapple he doesn't need, but he wants the love of offering it. Right? We know if a child goes to the store and buys one ice cream, and he comes home, and he opens the wrapper, and first tells mother and father, you first take the first bite. How does mother and father reciprocate?
They will not take.
They will not take. They'll eat the whole thing, they thank you very much. They'll pretend and give back. Because who do they want to enjoy that ice cream? And they'll buy a whole nother box, being so pleased by that one action. Right? Even though, who bought the ice cream?
Parents.
Parents. But because a child had consciousness, recognizing who is giving. So, in our child state, we have this nice understanding. But as we grow, we start to think, okay, I am now on my own. I am doing. So let's understand and let's try to break this ego that will then take us further, closer to being confident in detaching from the fruits. So we know on paper, without any ambiguity, what is best for me? Detached. 100% is black and white. But when it comes to practice, that's where ambiguity enters into the equation. So why are we not prepared? Let's understand. What did we come into this world with? And what are we going to exit this world with? So then, what do I own between point A and point B?
Karma.
Nothing. I don't own anything. That's the ego-shattering statement, but it's reality. All I'm doing is borrowing things. I may dig into the ground and pull up some jewels. I may take those jewels and take it to the marketplace. Exchange it for some lumber and steel and windows and build myself a beautiful palace. And I will be convinced, whose palace is that? Mine. But where the materials came from to build that palace? And where the jewels came from? So whose are they? They're not mine, at least I know that. Yet, I claim, because I dug the earth, they're mine. This is how foolish we are. That we think, I'm creating all these things, so then it's mine. But everything here is provisioned by the Lord. You say, no, that's fine. I'm not pulling jewels from the earth. I'm going to the office and designing nice software, building some nice things, or performing medical. What I'm doing all that? Okay. who is providing the energy for us to perform those activities? If you have all the intelligence in the world, all the great training, all the great skills, but you don't have oxygen to breathe, what is the worth of that activity, that acquired skills? And who is providing the oxygen to fuel the body? Without the rays of the sun, how many grains of rice you can grow? Zero. Who is providing the sun? If I don't have pure drinking water to fuel this body, what is the value of my giant palace? So who am I fully dependent on? Anything I make or manufacture, who is the real creator? Krishna. So then who is the rightful owner? So then why am I so strongly attaching to the fruits? Because I am an illusion. If I walk into this house, and I come into the house, and I go straight into the kitchen, and I start opening the cabinets, and I start preparing a very nice meal. And I say, oh, nice boga is here, nice vegetables, nice rice, nice atta. Well, let's make a nice meal. And then I sit down at the dining table, and I start eating it. And then Mataji and Prabhuji come and say, what are you doing? I say, I made the meal. I'm the rightful owner of this meal, no? What will Mataji and Prabhuji say? The door is that way.
They'll give you Pandey grocery bill.
Yeah, right? Because I think I came in and created, but they'll say, what will Mataji? Of course, they would not say this, but you get the point. What will they say?
We provided the gas, vegetables, everything.
Yeah, you came into my house, and at least you should enjoy with me. Sure, you can have too, but if you try to enjoy independently, is that respectful? So if we try to enjoy the resources of this world without first offering them to Krishna, the owner, the proprietor, are we being any different in walking into somebody's house, using their facilities for ourselves? Is there any difference? So next time we think, we are surrendering the fruits of our work, remember, it's like we walk into somebody's house, we sit on this nice sofa, and at the end we say, you know what, you can have your sofa, I'm surrendering it to you. And that person would say, that's my sofa in the first place. So actually, whatever we are surrendering to Krishna, trust me, it's no big offering. It's Krishna's in the first place anyways. But still it is our duty. But Krishna does not see it as, oh, this is only mine. Just as a child who offers the ice cream. Father doesn't say, oh, that's nice of you, that's mine anyways. No. Because as the Father appreciates the thought, the love that went into that surrender, similarly, whatever we surrender to Krishna, even though it's Krishna's himself, he appreciates and treats as the greatest of all offerings. So, we should have firm conviction in our position in this world. We have no ability on our own to do anything. But by the mercy of Krishna, we are able to perform various activities. So when we perform those activities and some result comes, where should it go first? Krishna. And we know and the child offers the ice cream to Krishna, to his father. Who enjoys the ice cream more? Father or child? So when we give our fruits to Krishna, how does Krishna reciprocate?
Give more fruits.
We take one step to Krishna. He takes 10 steps to us. It's not even a one-to-one relationship. But we have to take the first step. So this detaching from the fruits is black and white on paper, and it should be black and white in practice. And by ridding ourselves of this false ego, it becomes clear. Right? So let's just conclude now with a brief how to practically detach from the fruits. So when the paycheck comes, I should rip it up and put it in a waste bin. Is that detaching from the fruits?
Offer it to the Krishna and then
Offer it to Krishna. So I should take the paycheck, go to the temple and put it in the hundi?
Try and do something that will help spread the message of Krishna consciousness.
Okay. So use the fruits in a way that will help spread the message of Krishna. Right? So there are practical things. We have bills to pay. Right? So, how can we practically in our day-to-day life now be detaching from the fruits and offering them to Krishna? What are some practical ways in which we can do this? So we're not going to throw the paycheck in the waste bin, and we're not going to drop the paycheck in the hundi. So what are we going to do? Let's get down to some practical actions. What are we going to do? What does it mean to offer the results to Krishna? I go to the cinema and say, I'm here for Krishna? No. So how do we practically offer the results to Krishna?
Make
Chanting,
Krishna center of the house, then perform the activity, name of his name.
Okay, so making Krishna the center of the house. So I get the floor plan out, and I find the exact center, and I say, Krishna, this is where you are in the house? Is that what I do? What does making Krishna the center of the house mean?
Thinking about
Keeping
things
him-
like book distribution, prasadam distribution that will bring people closer to Krishna.
Okay, so thinking about spreading this movement through books and prasadam, yeah.
keeping Krishna in your unconscious thoughts, like always thinking about him and chanting.
Okay, so always thinking about Krishna and chanting. Okay, what else? Yeah.
Bringing Krishna in the center is like he's the owner. We make him as a owner. Since we are the people, we are the owner. But under his blessings and remembering him, what he provided us, and we perform the activities, whatever he likes.
Okay, so we perform activities in the home, recognizing he is the center. So what are some? We cook in the house.
And chanting.
Who should eat first? Why?
because these are his fruits.
Then it will become prasad. Yeah. Why else?
He provided it to us.
It's his house. We just said he's the center of the house. If the center of the house, somebody comes to your house, you'll feed them. But this is Krishna's house. So the practical way of executing that consciousness is, if I'm going to make some food in his house, I must first offer to Krishna. Not on a special occasion, on some holiday, when I have time. No, anything. I should first have it offered to Krishna because it's his house. Right? What about, I have family in the house. Let's say I have children in the house. How should I view my parental responsibilities in relation to Krishna consciousness?
Educate him about Krishna.
Educate them about Krishna. So don't educate them about math and science and history and English.
Do it later.
Do it
School
later.
will do it.
How to understand what is my ultimate duty for my children.
Make spiritually right.
To bring in Krishna consciousness.
Educate them about the God.
So, but if you ask 100 parents, would you rather have your child admitted into Harvard University or have completed Bhakti Shastri study of Shastra? What they'll say.
They're scared,
Why?
basically.
Why? We just said, we concluded to ourselves, attaching to the fruits leads to,
Misery.
and detaching from the fruits leads to.
Krishna.
But why, when it comes to our children, we want them to attach to the fruits? Okay? So, a knowledgeable parent will understand what is the ultimate goal for what do I want for my child. In the end, what is my only goal for my child? Happiness. I want happiness for my child. Now I have knowledge of where happiness comes from. Right? So I have to have that as my principal goal. But because that's a principal goal, does it mean I forego their material education? No. Because material education is a very critical part of their existence in this material world. Just like if I'm driving in a car to go to Florida. If my goal is to go to Florida, do I ignore that the car needs fuel and say I'm not going to pull over to get fuel, I'm trying to go to Florida? No, that would be foolish. But if I pull over to get fuel in the car and I stay at that gas station and forget to go to Florida, would I consider that a successful journey? So understand what's the goal and what are the different activities along the way. So we have to have clarity that my goal is to take my child back to Krishna. But I also have other responsibilities. Educating them, training them in different activities, training them in how to operate in this world. It's not a pretty place. It's not a pretty place. So we have to do those activities. But if I do those activities at the expense of the ultimate goal, then what have I actually accomplished as a mother and father? Nothing. All I've taught them is how to become attached to the fruits and carve their future of suffering. And that is why Shastra says, if you're going to become a mother or father, you must be able to deliver them. So in my home, making Krishna the center means I understand I am the temporary chaperone of these children. Because who is the eternal chaperone? Krishna. Right? So making Krishna the center of our home translates into practical actions. Right? I myself practice Krishna consciousness. I cook for the Lord. I bring up my family in spiritual life. Again, doesn't mean that I don't pay the bills, I don't do other things, because those are practical realities we have to. But don't lose sight in those activities of the real ultimate goal. Don't get lost at the gas station on your way to Florida. Understand? So this is how we practically perform our activities to achieve. Okay? Thank you, man. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions, comments? Everybody's got it all figured out? Yes.
You were talking about the fruits and how we can give the fruits to Krishna. Is it instead of how do I say it? Can you instead give the fruits to everyone else, like Krishna's, like the devotees of Krishna, and like share the love with them, and they'll give it to yourself, spread it that way? Krishna wants us to love each other.
That's a nice question. So, can you distribute the fruits of your work by giving them to everybody else who are also children of Krishna? Maybe, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. So, we have to be mindful that when I give the fruits to somebody, what are they going to do with it? right? So if I give, arms to a violent criminal, is that going to be a good thing? No. If I give money to a gambler, is that going to be a good thing? No. Right? So I'm speaking a little bit extremes to illustrate the point that when we give in charity, and Krishna will speak about giving in charity in the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance, we must give charity in a way that is conducive to that recipient's growth in spiritual life. So we can give in charity, as Mataji was saying earlier, Krishna Prasadam, because that is purifying. We can give these books in charity. Why? Because this gives us the knowledge to finally conclude what nobody else at Somerset Mall knows. Detached from the fruits. Right? So we can give in charity in ways that can help uplift one's knowledge and consciousness so that their activities can advance. So just going out and giving blind charity won't necessarily achieve the function of advancing their knowledge, right?
What if it wasn't blind and what if it was specifically focused?
Yeah, then it's great. Yeah. Krishna doesn't need, more things for himself. What does he want? He wants all of his lost children back. So whatever we can do to spread this knowledge of Krishna is most pleasing to him. And he says this at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, whoever shares this knowledge is most dear to me. And then he says, and there will be no one more dear to me than that person. So whatever creative ways we can do to share this knowledge, and through the use of our fruits, why do we construct temples? Foolish people will say, you're wasting this money on temples. Why don't you go out and feed the poor? And the response is, we are feeding the poor. Because poor is not defined by what is in my Chase bank account. Poor is defined by what is in here and here. That is real wealth or real poverty. And what is the temple doing? Giving wealth of consciousness so that we can make better decisions in life. So like that is a way to serve the community. We're, nice transition, preparing for our Rath Yatra festival, which is coming up. I'd like to ask all of us to participate, at least starting now, before the festival comes, in this marketing service. This chance to spread the message, to share, to invite people. What are we doing? We're inviting people to begin their journey through a very fun and festive atmosphere, beginning their spiritual life. That is a service to the community. That is a service to society. So there are many creative ways in which we can do it. Is that okay? Any other questions or comments?
Detachment with the results. Let's suppose if somebody is preparing for some exam or some sport, and detachment means like you don't consider yourself winning the game or passing the exam. How does that define over there?
So let's take the exam as a thing. So the question is, why do I want to pass the exam? What's the purpose for passing the exam?
Go to the next level.
Okay, and then so what is the purpose of going to the next level?
To graduate.
To graduate, perfect. And what is the purpose of graduating?
Get a better job.
To get a better job, perfect. And what is the result of a better job?
More personal time.
More money.
More money, perfect. What is the purpose of more money?
More charity.
More what?
More you can spread more. You can spend more time, personal time.
What is the purpose of more personal time?
You can practice.
Enjoyment.
Practice.
You can chant Krishna mantra. You can read.
If that's your end goal, then desiring to pass the exam is good. Because my purpose of passing the exam is to advance myself, get to a better career, give me more facilities to serve Krishna. Then passing the exam is a perfect goal. But if passing the exam, the purpose is to do more eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then what is the purpose? Right? So the attachment should be to the service of Krishna. So when you become detached from the fruits, it doesn't mean you don't, compete in the office and try to do the best and go as far as you can. Climb that corporate ladder. No problem. But we must keep asking, why am I doing that? For what purpose? If the purpose is the self, that's attachment. If the purpose is Krishna, but don't think, I want a corner office so Krishna will be happy. It has to be in reality, in actuality. So devotees work very hard. They aspire and they reach great heights. Because the benefit is when you detach from the results, now our attachment comes only to the effort. My attachment should only be to the effort. What result comes or not comes, whose is it? Taking this Rath Yatra marketing service. I should not think, I'm putting all these flyers out and nobody's coming. I'm not going to do it this year. Whose result is it? Our only attachment should be, how many flyers I put out? Did I do my as best I could? Whether people come or not come, that's not ours. It is Krishna's. Our opportunity is to attach to the seva. So then we have no lamentation. There's no dissatisfaction. Because the result isn't mine. And actually we become very liberated. In the office, you work very hard. You fight. You do what you need to do. But if the result doesn't come, okay, Krishna must have a better plan. But don't let Krishna being the better plan lead to her. That's not a license to be lazy. That's why Krishna says, Vigata Jvara. He says you fight without lethargy. It means you do your duty responsibly, sincerely. Because Krishna has given you this ability, you must use it. Don't waste it. But if after all of your sincere efforts, the result doesn't come, no stress. Okay, Krishna must have a better plan. And actually, then you see, you become more effective in your work. You become more effective in your endeavors. We waste so much energy on the stress and anxiety of something we have no responsibility for or no ownership of. Instead, if we took all of that energy and put it into our work, we would be so much more effective. And that is why you see that devotees of the Lord, they are at the tops of all their fields because they understand this. They know Krishna is the doer of the results. Just do the best we can with 100%. The only anxiety I should have, did I do my best? Did I absolutely put all I could into it? If I did, great. Whatever happens, happens. And in this way, you'll become less stressed, more successful. Any other questions? Yeah.
It's our personality which speaks, I say.
Huh?
If a peon comes and tells me to read Bhagavad Gita and a CEO comes and tells me to read Bhagavad Gita, there's a difference. We will listen to the CEO because he is so successful. The same thing. Like whatever we do, if we are successful, more people will listen to us.
Yeah. So that's, go become successful and go out and spread this message. Yeah.
When I heard it is just related to that one, I made a practical experiment at home.
Yeah.
Just when last time we had a discussion, it is just like in the glass of water, you take the water and put a spoon of mud, and it become complete. That is what I say that. And then we are always trying to remove that with a spoon. Mud we are removing, but still there is mud left in the water of glass. But as soon you take another glass of water, then you pour in that water, all the mud will go, water only will remain. So exact perfect example what you just explained.
Yes. Keep pouring Krishna consciousness into our life. All the impurities will go. Keep chanting. Keep serving. Keep, coming to Krishna's home. Rendering service in the temple. These are huge benedictions for us. Great opportunities for us. We should take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. To step into the home of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no ordinary feat. You cannot step into the White House or any king's palace without extreme endeavor and maybe some luck. But you can step into the Supreme Lord's house 7 days a week. And even that, you'll have a chance to render some service. If you go to the White House, you can take a tour behind ropes and basically in and out. But if you say, hey, let me type up a memo for the president, they'll let you? But Krishna is waiting, opening his doors. So we should take advantage of that. At least once a week, we should come and visit the Lord in his home. Render some seva. It can be 5 minutes. Whatever it is, it's not insignificant to Krishna. It's very significant to him. Whatever we do, he considers with great value. So take advantage of this bargain. Don't have to do much, but just be a regular visitor of the Lord in his home. A little bit of austerity is there, but that austerity is repaid many, many times over. And we are the beneficiaries. Nobody else. Nobody else. Sometimes we wonder, the temple doesn't need us. That is actually correct. That is 100% correct. Doesn't need any of us. But we need that. We need it. Trust me. Krishna has unlimited servants. It is not he who needs us. It is we who need him. It is we who need him. So let us evaluate the need in the mirror. And then we'll make good decisions. Okay? Shall we chant? Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda. Hare